cruel summer for many music fans. Tickets for Taylor Swift's stretch of Toronto shows are already on the resale market. Some are now listed on StubHub for, get this, over $20,000. And tickets for this past weekend's Metallica concert at the Big O were reselling for as high as $5,000. Let's talk a little bit more about the ticket prices when it comes to concerts with Catherine Moore. She's a professor in music technology and digital media over at the University of Toronto. Catherine, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So I would love to know how you would describe, 2023, getting a ticket to a concert. How would you describe? Is it the best of times or the worst of times?
Well, it's both. It's the best of times because these shows are happening again. We're out of the pandemic in terms of businesses have found ways to have live events again, whether it's sports, whether it's music. Big acts are on tour, the biggest right now of which, of course, is Taylor Swift. And it's the worst of times because you can't just go to a website and buy a ticket. There are so many steps. Face value of a ticket doesn't mean anything anymore because the ticket price is completely set by the resale market.
Mm-hmm. And how much should a ticket cost? I mean, putting all of those things into account, you want a decent ticket for Metallica at Olympic Stadium this weekend, or you want a decent ticket for Taylor Swift at the Rogers Centre next year. How much should that ticket cost?
Wow. Well, I think that how much it should cost is, and it's odd to say this, but I think it's not in even the presenter's control anymore. And that's a really strange situation because at some point, Metallica's team, Taylor Swift's team, they look at the market conditions. They say, we're going to be touring in different countries. There's different levels of tickets that are typical ticket prices, typical prices for other goods and services in that market. We want these to be affordable for our fans. But these are our production costs. And how do we balance these two and how do we set the ticket prices? So they sit down and they do that, but they know at the end of the day that price is just a starting point, kind of, the starting blocks for the sprint that then happens in the secondary market, where the ceiling is only set by whoever has the most money and is willing to pay.
So to me, Catherine, I find this interesting because, and that's why I asked the question, is this the best time or the worst of times? Because I have felt in the last little while, all of these resale sites, whether it's StubHub and there's other ones like TickPick and SeatGeek, there's so many options out there. I actually feel like I've never gotten better deals ever to see shows. As long as you know how to time the market, like what day to go on these sites where sellers need to get rid of their tickets, I've actually never gotten better deals in my life. At the same time, I do see the $1,000 to go see Metallica, right? So I balance both of those things. And I say to myself, oh, you know what? The apps and the resellers and all that, I think you can come out a winner as long as the demand doesn't overwhelmingly outstrip supply.
Exactly. And that's why the secondary ticketing market, that whole marketplace is really useful to the live events business. Because what gets the headlines is those high ticket prices. What doesn't get the headlines, and I'm really glad you're bringing this up, is that it can be a buyer's paradise.
Yeah.
If a sports team isn't doing well, or if an event isn't selling as well as the promoter wanted it to, as the actual date approaches, you can get enormous discounts. And as you say, the different sites, you can start to get a sense of when will extra tickets go on sale? When will someone who's listed a ticket maybe for $5,000 realize there are no buyers out there? Mm-hmm. So the seller then says, all right, I'm going to, if I get $900, I paid $600 for it, I'm still making $300. And so it can absolutely be a buyer's paradise.
We're talking concert ticket prices with Catherine Moore from the University of Toronto. So, Catherine, you know, I know Ticketmaster gets a lot of flack, right, for their dynamic pricing. And I say to myself, well, wait a minute, you know, like maybe it's better if it's the artist and the promoter from the start that are doing the dynamic ticket pricing. That way I know more money is going to the artist than if that dynamic pricing happens on the secondary market. I wonder if you have an opinion on that. Where should the dynamic pricing happen, from the initial seller or the resale market?
Well, if it can happen from the initial seller, and Bruce Springsteen, as one example, got a lot of criticism by having, I think the top ticket was priced initially at $4,000, and people said, well, you're supposed to be the working persons, the middle class. Come on, no one has $4,000. But exactly as you say, Bruce Springsteen and his team said, well, the money then comes back to us and can support our staff, can support our production. And way back when my first understanding of this came back, I think it was 2001. It was in New York City on Broadway, and there was a show called The Producers.
Yes.
And the producers of The Producers they wanted to combat the person who stood outside the theater on the street corner with tickets in their trench coat, right? And saw, why can that person make money? So the producers of that show, made the decision to have higher tickets, to have the select seats in the house have a higher ticket price. And it was for exactly the same reason. So I think that even if fans knew, and this is what's really controversial, is where does that money go from the resold tickets?
Yeah. And
there have been some investigation. I haven't seen any definitive results of that investigation and it was a sports team example where, in fact, a cut of the proceeds from the secondary sites was actually going back to the team.
Yes, I've seen those partnerships, right, between sports leagues, teams, and the resale sites to take a cut.
Right. So that starts to raise the question about, okay, so is this a little bit of smoke and mirrors where we're setting a $280 ticket price, just to pick a number, but because then we look like we're supporting fans here, but not having a really, really high ticket price. But we know that at the end of the day, we're going to participate from the second sale, the third sale, and so on. And I think fans of sports, fans of music would not be so happy with that.
Yeah.
But possibly so I don't know. And yes, as you say, there have been investigations into that, but I don't know if these partnerships are kind of kept on the quiet, if they still exist. I don't know.
Catherine, we're going to have to leave it there, but I want to thank you for bringing me back, because the first Broadway show I ever saw was The Producers, and you made me remember that spectacular moment, because that was a good show. Catherine, thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
That is Catherine Moore from the Music Technology and Digital Media program at the University of Toronto.